Who are you guys, and where can people find you?
I am
Clear about
Julia
it.
Lewald, well, one of the writers on the original X-Men, the animated series, and now a consulting producer on X-Men 97.
And I'm Eric Lewald, showrunner on the original series and the same consulting producer on the new show.
I handle all social media feeds, and we are on Twitter at X-Men TAS, and that's for X-Men, the animated series. Also on Instagram, also on Facebook, and we have a website, xmentas.com. We need to update that.
Yeah,
but it's
work.
there. So yeah, please find us. It's the X-Men family is a wonderful place to be.
I love your background, by the way. I think it's there's some new additions and stuff. A young Hercules poster. As I had you on. Yeah, thank you so much for coming back. It's kind of like a second interview after the amazing first, which can't. It feels like it was just yesterday, but then if you think about, like, since I last had you guys on, we had the world shut down, we had COVID, but we also had the announcement, the slow trickle of trailers and posters, and finally the entire first season of X-Men 90. First off, just wow and congrats, and I cannot praise the show and you and everybody involved with that enough. Just amazing work.
Let's toss that to the X-Men 97 team. My gosh, we are honored to be a part of it, but wow, what they've done. It's crazy.
So our first interview was kind of like all about how you guys got started with the original amazing show, the funny, strange things that requests that you got. Like, I still remember you telling me about turning them into kind of like, well, can't they operate out of a van and, you know, go find mutants or something? How you guys really felt under pressure and like every season would be your last, and then you finally got your last season. And I'd like to kind of take it from there to where we are now. So first off, I want to ask, I can speak for the fans, but both of you and the cast and everyone else who worked on that original amazing show also worked on so many other amazing and fantastic shows, both before and after. Yet I feel like for whatever reason, X-Men is widely from the actors to you guys. I mean, your accounts is X-Men TAS. So yeah, I was just curious, like from the creative standpoint, what was it about that show that to this day is like that's what you're most proud of or sticking with?
Yeah, if we knew how it came together, if we knew how to do it again, we would. It's kind of magic.
There are a lot of different angles to answer that question. Part of the reason for our involvement on Twitter, X, on Facebook, on Instagram was that 8 years ago, we weren't really sure folks were remembering X-Men. It wasn't the animated series. It wasn't available generally. It was not on a major stream.
If I was just laughing at the fact that from a stance, I remember the show. The fact of anyone forgetting it is, but sorry, continue.
No, but we didn't have a way of connecting with fans at that point. Again, I keep going back to 8 years ago, just because last week we were notified that it was our 8th anniversary on Twitter and Twitter X. And it's like, boy, starting that and just trying to reach out and find fans. And today we just passed the 17,800 mark of fans, which we started with 1 8 years ago. Finding the fans and sort of coming together and realizing the show meant a great deal to us, and to realize or learn or find out how much it meant to other people has been very gratifying.
Yeah, there's so many elements in making a show successful, and any one or two of them can just sink a show. I mean, we talk about, we've each worked on over 50 different series. Our friend Larry Houston, who was main artist on this, has worked over 100.
Yep.
And you know, your skill level doesn't go up and down that much among those 50. So it's not necessarily what you're doing that makes something unpopular, okay, pretty good, great, or worldwide popular. They're like 50 different elements, and one of them is the timing. Is there anything else out there like it? Is it new and exciting? Are the other dozen major creative people involved on the same page with you, or are you fighting each other? Is it the right time for the television network? Fox was really pushing its shows. It was brand new and it was trying to get noticed, so they had a lot of effort there, versus we did a show called Exo Squad around the same time, and Universal didn't have much of a kids department, so they didn't know much about promoting it, and it, you know, it showed up at 4 a.m. or, you know, 1 p.m. when no kid during school, that, you know, nobody's going to watch it. So there's all these things, you know, they had the right distributor, we had the right property in X-Men versus some others that are maybe less memorable. We had the right creative people. It was the 1992, 93 was the perfect time for this. You know, 10 years later, people might have been getting tired of superheroes. There's all these different elements that come together. The right censor at our network who let us tell the stories we wanted to tell, instead of saying, cut 3/4 of that out, which is, you know, it's part of the business. All these things came together magically. And so, you know, we were 30 for 30 in all the things that you need on this one show. And there's no way to plan for that.
Yeah.
There's no way to control that unless it's all your money, unless you're a billionaire and choose everybody and hold on to them.
And even then, you are not in control of, is it at the right time for an audience? Is it to find an audience? So, you know, where is it?
Look at all
pop culture.
All the people in TV and movies that, you know, 8 or 9 out of 10 aren't successful. And they're these brilliant people, and they're putting hundreds of millions of dollars into projects, and it comes out and they just don't connect with the audience. And it's like a song. How many songs really grab a worldwide audience every year? You know, 4 or 5 out of the thousands that are on Pandora. So we don't know how it was that magical, but it all came together on that show. And the reason that we're all doing the X-Men stuff is that we could put young Hercules on, and people like the show, but for every X-Men fan internationally, there's maybe 1,000th that many or 100th that many young Hercules fans. It's a quantity thing. We touched all these different people with X-Men, and we can't tell you why.
Well, also X-Men the animated series exists because X-Men the comic books exist, and
which was a start. Which was a solid start.
Yeah, but in terms
of foundation,
and sort of catching the wave, the pop culture wave of where things were at that time. X-Men the animated series was able to do that in a way a lot of shows weren't. And then, and this is me talking, but the rights fell apart so rapidly after the show was over. There was never one studio or network or any support system for X-Men the animated series once it was finished. And
that's why we think it kind of went dark for a while, because there was no one around to promote it.
And that hurt my heart. That just hurt my heart. And that's what got us kind of doing it.
Yeah, but if you think, I mean, we try to make the connection in our heads, like, say, you know, Sherlock Holmes stories came out 150 years ago, and there have been 100 different TV and movie versions of and various variations on it, and the books and 2 or 3 of the adaptations have stayed with everybody, and the rest, we're still the same characters, we're still the same world, we're still the same kind of stories, sometimes even the same stories, and it just the mixture of people and time and creative elements just didn't come together and grab an audience. And as I say, if Hollywood, nobody sleeps in Hollywood because there's no way to know beforehand how that's going to work. You could get the same group of people and do a second series, and then it's not there this time, and they can't tell you why, and the audience can't tell you why. They can't say, well, but I loved the first Star Trek, but you know, Next Generation was beautiful and it was much bigger budget, but it just didn't grab me the way the first one did.
But then there are people
or vice versa.
Or vice versa.
Exactly.
And so it's real. It makes us that much more grateful when something we work on happens to come together like that, because we know how kind of random and magic it is, and how we have no control over it.
Well, that's actually that would be a great segue to a question I have coming up. But before we get to that question, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe between the end of the initial series and the pickup of 97, I remember reading a bunch of articles and interviews online from both of you, from other people involved with that original show, expressing a desire or an interest in some kind of a continuation of the show in some form or another. As someone kind of reading that, it felt like kind of a bit of a long road between when I first heard about that to this. I can't imagine what it feels like. But I was wondering if you guys could talk at all about that journey, what you guys maybe had originally envisioned, why bring it back, all of that.
We don't want to take too much credit here for having anything to do with X-Men 97 happening, but we are and remain and were and such fans of X-Men the animated series. And when the final episode written by Jim Krieg called Graduation Day aired
in 97,
so much, many important players had left the show at that point. The budget was slashed. The final 11 episodes, they're tough to look at animation wise because the budget was cut, but they're rock solid stories there. And I thought I still get choked up watching X-Men watching Graduation Day when Charles Xavier gets to say goodbye to each of his students. So it wasn't, I don't think at the time we felt like, oh, we have 10 more seasons in the tank that we just can't wait to jump on story wise. It was more like, okay, if this is going to wrap up this series, it feels like an appropriate place to put the pin in it.
Yeah, and that's hard for, I mean, it's hard for movie people, it's hard for TV people. You put all your heart and soul into this thing, and then after a couple of months, if you're on a movie, suddenly it's done, and you're just on to the next project, and you have to kind of wipe the slate clean and focus on the next project. And if it was a favorite thing that you did, you might in the back of your mind say, well, be really cool if I could do another one of those, one day. But it doesn't, I don't know anybody. I mean, there may be some people that obsessive, but certainly we're not that obsessive. We just, we went on to the next job and just took it for granted, as with every other show we'd ever worked on, that was it, that there would be no revival, there'd be no extension, there'd be no new version 5 or 10 or 20 or now 30 years later.
And we would have no involvement in
it. Yeah, just kind of the way Hollywood works is, the new people have, their take on it, and the world has gone through a couple generations in the meantime, and so it's a different. We laughingly talked about our series was different tonally from, say, Stan Lee's original 63, Stan and Jack Kirby's 63 version when they set up the X-Men, because there were a bunch of male American teenagers, and then Gene came in and like baked cookies a little bit, the end of the first dozen. It was a very different feel, and we tried to explain to the head of Fox, like, well, look, Stan's version was interesting, it was okay, but it had gone through half a dozen bits of evolution just in the books over the 30 years since he did it. And it was kind of like, that's Pat Boone and we are grunge rock, we're Nirvana. And the two don't mix. Both of them are admirable. I mean, I love listening to older music, but it's like the world evolves, and the new people, the new 30-somethings, when we did it, we were the 30-somethings and Stan was a 60-something. Now the new guys like Beau are the 30-somethings and we're the 60-somethings. So we have to let go and let it be their show. And if it was weirdly different, that might have been a challenge, trying to give notes or be supportive if it was really weirdly different. But to their credit, they they somehow magically made it new, and yet felt like it was part of our show, a continuation of our show at the same time, which I think is twice as hard as what we did.
Yeah.
We just came up with what we thought were cool X-Men stories in the 1990s. We didn't have any weight behind us. We didn't have anybody micromanaging. We didn't have a legacy to deal with other than the fact the books were so popular.
We didn't have social
We
media.
didn't have social media. There's no internet.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
But these guys had to take our show, which, a couple 100 million people had watched and loved, and make a new show that both completely respected it and was something new at the same time. And I don't know how they did it. We remain amazed at what a beautiful job they did.
We saw them do it. We still don't know how they did it.
As a fan on the outside, growing up with your show and now watching this show, I could tell you, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying a bit before about reboots and pickups, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I obviously have no clue how they did it either, but I am right there with you. I don't even know how to explain it any better than you did. It somehow feels like both a natural continuation and yet at the same time something new and exciting, but these are the same characters. It's a weird combination that I've never, over the past few years, we've seen a bunch of revivals, reboots, pickups, whatever, older shows coming back. But they're usually done by new teams. Sometimes they bring the original actors back, sometimes not. Right. But they always, and you can enjoy them or not in their own right, but they always feel different and unique from what they're supposed to be spun out of, right? And this show, while amazing, feels like it's actually an organic part of your guys' show. And I feel like that's not only a huge factor for its overwhelming success. Disney recently released numbers, but Disney also stated that people have gone back and watched the original show. And I honestly believe that's a big reason why.
I think a thing, because this is a unique situation, being a fan, but also kind of being a part of this thing. And people who watched the original series, X-Men, who were there at the beginning from, let's just say there were folks there from 1992. Okay. And then watched it through to 97. And then there was X-Men Evolution. And then there was Wolverine and the X-Men. And then there were the feature films. The fact that people have had a little part of X-Men animated series in their heads and their hearts for 25 years now. And what they've done with X-Men 97, it feels like we all grew together. We're older. The fans who first watched the show are older, and the issues and the manner in which they are dealing with things feels so earned. It feels everything they've done. It's like, oh my God, that's exactly what it needs to be. And oh my God, I can't believe they did that. It's been magical watching that.
So, going back a step, I guess a two-fold question. A, how did you first hear the news that this was going to happen, or this is a thing? Did Beau approach you personally? Was it Disney? How did that happen? And what are your guys' specific official connections to X-Men 97?
Have you signed an NDA yet? Because if you haven't signed an NDA, I may not be able to tell you about our NDA.
Well, that explains the sniper over my shoulder.
Yeah. But we can tell you, it very much was Beau's doing. I mean, between Beau and the executives who supervise the show, the two senior Marvel executives, which is
Baum and Dana Vasquez,
Dana and
those
two, they came to an agreement and understanding that, okay, we want to have Larry Houston and Eric and Julia back on as consultants. Now, this doesn't mean that they brought us on to build the new show. When they called us, they were 9 months in to building the show. They really had this exact, the show. They had this world built. They had the scripts going. They had the artists going. Everything was in place, and we had stacks of things to see. When we had the first phone call with Beau, and he bringing us on, he said, "Look, guys, it's very simply, we want you to be our first audience. We trust you. We don't know, you know, as we're, you know, thousands of hours into this, we don't know if we're doing this right. We thought, you know, you guys could have a look at it, you know, and read the scripts and see rough animatics with the voices, you know, listen to what we've done and react and say, yes, this is satisfying. No, this is confusing or bothersome. Red flags, you know, ideas to make, you know, to punch it up a little. So that was very much our job. Larry went a little further. Larry actually did the new, you know, designed the new titles,
which is
basically based on his old titles. But so Jake and the artists had him in to really be hands-on with that. But as far as work is, we were advising, note giving, and very much appreciated that. But they made it, that, you know.
Yeah, I think part for the question, we've gotten in contact with the original voice actors when you were doing the first book previously on X-Men, and even that was only what, 2015, 2016.
Yeah, I did interview them for the first book previously on X-Men.
So we were hearing things in the ether
Yeah.
that folks were being reached out to.
Yes, exactly.
There you go. Very nice. Very nice.
mine.
On a super secret, top secret project that had a pretend name that no one was allowed to talk about to each other. So there was something in the ether.
There were rumblings for about a year, you know, actors that we knew from the original show. I said, have you heard, you know,
what do you know?
and we
There's
knew
something going on, right?
Yeah.
we knew that once they got all the rights back together, when they bought 20th Century Fox, when Disney Marvel did, and they were able, because they wouldn't have been able to make the show. Fox would have said, well, okay, give us $50 million for the rights to use what we, so they got the rights together. We knew that they're going to make a show because we just knew what a huge fan base there was. We'd been going to cons for a while now, and we were seeing our characters all over the place, and we were having fans come up to us and just say, you don't understand, this was like my #1 show. So we knew that there's a huge fan base out there, and Disney loves to use the properties they have. We knew it was going to happen one day once the Fox deal went through. But there for a year or two, we just were hearing rumors, and the voice people are hearing rumors. And then we got, you know, phone call and realized that they'd been working hard on it for 9 months. So they kept it very close to the vest.
They did, and continue to. But yeah,
Whereas Disney, I mean, like you said, there were rumblings, but nothing really concrete, no rumors, no anything leading up to that first panel where that is, especially again in this day and age where everything is constantly being connected, is I don't know how they pulled that off, but it's impressive. This is probably up for the X-Men 97 team, but when are we going to get another X-Men pizza?
I'm sorry.
Oh, pizza. No problem. You're interrupting for no reason.
I was panicking.
No. That's completely fair.
No. We suggested that. I mean, who knows how many?
You suggested that.
Julia, the split second Julia gets online with anybody at Marvel or Disney, she said, "How come we not have a Pizza Hut deal going?" So we just thought it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on with as far as their marketing goes, but it was certainly something that all the fans. Certainly half the fans of the original show that watched it from early on were aware of that, and that was the first time they got to see it, was getting that VHS tape with their versatile pan pizza.
Yep. And getting the cups and the placemat and the boxes and all that stuff.
That live action commercial with like the standard characters and the very early 90s, you know, special effects kind of stuff.
Oh, I'll wrap that up. Touching the pizza. Yeah.
Scott and Gene stand-ins going for the final slice and Gene taking it from both of them. It's very memorable for, like you said, those who grew up on it. The what you guys are working on now.
Well, they've formally announced season 2, and we have been re-signed as consulting producers.
Congrats.
And
so and they've greenlit season 3 eventually. I mean, they're hip deep in season 2 now, and it's in the media. I mean, there are a bunch of scripts out there. There's been some recordings, there've been animatics. So there is now stuff to look at for the second season, the way there was you know, when we got in on the first season a couple of years ago.
And there is enthusiasm going forward to season 3. Beyond that, we don't know, but we sure got our fingers crossed.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, they could go on for 8 or 9 seasons. I mean, it's up to them.
That's true. Yes.
You know,
Yes.
they've got the rights to do it now. If it continues to be this popular and done this well, why should they ever stop?
I think I read somewhere, and again, who can say how valid this is, but that Disney themselves were, you know, they knew this would be successful, but not how successful it's been. I mean, again, talking about the merchandising and just everything, like, you know, it almost really does feel like how prevalent your show was during those earlier years. Just all of a sudden there are X-Men 97 branded pajamas and cups and everything everywhere. Still need that Pizza Hut commercial, but other than that, you know, action figures.
We've been speaking with our friend Dan Wiesenmeyer, who has done a great deal of
Artist on the original show.
right.
Yep.
And has done
Big fan, by the way. I follow him
Yeah.
on Instagram. He posts
Oh.
amazing work.
yeah. And a lot of the stuff he's done for X-Men 97. You mentioned plastic glass or glasses. There's plastic glasses with his art on it. His art for the show is all over the place. And that's just, that makes my heart sing. That's really exciting to see that. So it's great that that Disney Marvel have reached back to those of us who were part of the show then. And the art book that you displayed, thank you, with Larry Houston and Rick Hilberg doing the front and back covers. You know, it continues to hold an incredible place in our hearts.
I mean, the fact that I read that even Kevin Feige was like, we could do this, but we have to, you know, bring that original song back, a new rendition of it. But still, we have to reach out to as many of the original cast and you know, reaching out to you guys, even if it's just to like show you the early storyboards and be like, so what do you think? You know, just to be open to that. Again, I feel like that's so very rarely happens when a show comes back, especially after it's been away for so long. And that, like, how does that make you feel? I mean, I imagine the answer to that, but I want to hear from you.
We're going to ride this pony straight into the dirt. As long as it's going to run, I'm going to hang on. That's my feeling for that one. But it has been so nice to reconnect with, because the original cast are in Canada, but Lenore Zan, the voice of Rogue, has come down to Los Angeles and has been here and hopefully maybe for the rest of the year doing more voice work, doing all kinds of things to reconnect with the original cast, to reconnect, to meet the new cast, and the astonishing work they've done. I will say I was nervous because the late Norm Spencer was our Cyclops. And it was his voice that said previously on X-Men. And that never got, you know, that wasn't a big deal, but it sort of became a big deal within our community, you know, previously on X-Men. I thought, wow, well, A, how are you going to find someone who can do Cyclops? And then B, what are you going to do about previously on X-Men? And C, the song. Again, we got all credit to Ron Wasserman, who composed that song while he was a contract employee
Working at Saban.
At Saban. And Ron Wasserman did that one, and he did a bunch of other stuff, but he also did Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And
There's another very like one of those theme songs where if you were there at the time, I mean, it's just great.
Yeah. So to get a chance to hear the new voice for Cyclops, the voice actor Ray Chase, who I think does an amazing job, and then to watch how they played with previously on X-Men for the opening for each of the individual 10 episodes and play with the opening title sequence. You know,
Easter eggs cool. Within the opening title sequence and callbacks, but beautifully re-rendered using, you know, modern. Yeah.
And I forget if we shared with you the first conversation, but that there is an accidental Easter egg in the original opening title sequence with Gambit and his cards. Did we talk about that yet?
No.
Okay, you got the book right there. Open the book in front of you.
Open the book.
Open the book to the very first page with black and gold.
Yeah, just open the cover and look in the black and gold at the right bottom at the 3 aces.
And everyone else can do this too. Okay, right
Right.
there.
Cool.
Whee!
It
We got it
doesn't
on
show
our
up
end
for a
here.
while on my camera.
Okay, it's working on
Oh.
ours.
Okay, yes.
If
Much,
you can
check out,
notice,
you guys
check
have
out
a
the
much
three
better
aces.
camera.
check out the pip for the ace of spades. It's upside down. We
It-
never caught that till we started putting the book together.
Yeah,
So
check
then
out your book.
Yeah, check out open your book right now. And we called Larry Houston about that and said, was this an overseas error? Because we never caught that. And he goes, got to be overseas error. I'll check my original boards. And he did. And he goes, oh my God, I drew it upside down.
Yeah, these were
He
the
was
original
going-
boards.
He was going so fast. The one weekend he had to kind of create this, or 48 hours.
Yeah.
It's upside down. And when you go back and watch any episode series,
It's still there.
it's still there. It's always been upside down. We shared that story with the production team on X-Men 97. So on X-Men 97, in the opening title sequences where Gambit's throwing his cards at the camera, it's quick, but the pip for the ace of spades is upside down again.
They kept the mistake.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
Yeah. So now you
an
know an Easter egg inside an
that
Easter
all
egg.
of our listeners will have to go back and
Yep.
keep an eye out for.
There you go. It goes
I-
by fast, but it's there.
I think that the new, I mean, I hear you. Whenever, again, as I think I originally shared in our previous interview, those voices on your show are the voices that to this day, whenever I pick up an X-Men comic, I hear in my head as I'm reading their dialogue. So I get I too was equally concerned. I understood the logistics and, you know, some are retired, some have sadly passed. Like I understood why recasting, but yeah, I was a little bit nervous to see how it would hold up, especially with 30 years worth of hearing it a certain way in my head. I feel like the actor that they got for Cyclops does a very great job, and I don't know if you saw, but he recently posted on his Twitter a shout out to Norm Spencer.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
And there's a
so-
wonderful moment in the first three episodes. Dr. Val Cooper is now voiced by Catherine Disher,
Yes,
who was the
the-
original voice of our Jean Grey. And there's a great moment where Val just turns to Cyclops and says to him, you've been doing a very good job here. You'd make Professor Xavier proud.
Trask would rather humans and mutants go to war than work together. We all win when men like him fail.
You sound like Charles. He would have been proud today.
And that moment, they've since said was like a real passing of the torch behind the scenes, that it was Catherine
From the
Disher
OG.
talking to the new voice of
Voice of Jean. Yeah.
talking to the new voice
kind
of
of passing it
Cyclops.
on to-
Oh my God. I love that kind of stuff. I love it.
Me too. I eat that kind of behind the scenes stuff up.
Oh, and
Too.
good old Gambit, AJ LoCascio.
It was also amazing.
Yes.
I mean, again, I was very anxious to see, hearing that the original actor would not, although he's done in such, I mean, who would have thought that the OG Gambit could be such an amazing Gable, but yeah.
Chris Potter. It's crazy. It's
What?
crazy. And, not to stir the pot, but the fact that Alyson Court, our original Jubilee,
Yes.
stepped back and Holly Chou is now in. And that brilliant Mojo Tendo episode where Alyson Court gets to come back as an iteration of Jubilee in the video game. It's just, oh my God, come on. And
I've played these levels inside and out, relived the glory days more than I care to count, but note the hair and wrinkles. Before Mojo killed the beta, I figured out a glitch and hacked my way through here before deletion.
Figures my game has cheat codes. Very me.
the two of them get to have a conversation. That was brilliant.
And,
Brilliant.
Obviously grew up with both X-Men, but also video games. And there were so many, like, if you played them, those were specific choices. There was a Sega Genesis game, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, the arcade game, like to track that was just, again, candy. I will say, just as a fan, that I love the work that the new sorry, I'm horrible with names, but the new Magneto actor has done this season. He's been amazing.
I want to get his name right, so I'm going to look it up here. Matthew, I believe. Matthew
Yes,
Wasserman.
Matthew.
I'm going to look it up. Yeah, I'll get it right here in a moment.
But that's one of those things where like I was reading an X-Men comic last night that had Magneto in it,
Yeah.
and I read it, and then like it took me a minute because I caught myself off guard, and I realized that the voice that I heard in my head reading Magneto was sadly the original actor who had passed away. I mean, there are so
David
many
Hemblen.
amazing actors.
Yes.
Ian McKellen, Michael Fassbender, this new
Matthew
and
Waterson.
there's no reason why. Like I was thinking, Batman and James Bond, right?
Yeah.
Same character constantly, and each performance is amazing. But there's something about that original voice for me that still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's a great Easter egg in
Yeah.
the last couple episodes where they open the Magneto protocol file and it lists his different aliases and it lists all the actor. It lists David Hemblen, Ian with the blacked out name, and James. Help me out here. Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
The tease on that all those
Yeah.
folks in the X-Men universe all played Magneto too.
Again, I think that we talked about this, but the love that the new crew has both for the comics, but also for your show and what you guys did is so prevalent and apparent in this series. From the, callbacks to the having the original Jubilee or Jean Grey voice kind of pass the torch on to the other actors.
Yeah, no,
But
we're not used to that kind of. They know. We have laughed occasionally. The folks working on X-Men '97 know X-Men the animated series better than we do. I was like, now in episode when they did this with the camera, like, oh, what?
Yeah, certainly the artists have
Oh my
just been
God, the artists are-
obsessing with it, and that's the thing. They spent 3 whole years from the time that there was a green light to the time it premiered in March, and they just were. We thought that 7 months was a long time, doing the first season for us.
No.
Yeah, and they just were deep into it, and the longer they spend on it, it's like cooking and marinating and adding and detailing and sculpting, and it just kept on adding stuff that they loved as fans. And so that's why it's just jam packed with this stuff because they wanted to. Most of the time, you get professionals out here say, well,
Right.
is it our time? Is it our 40 hours up, or time to go on to the new show? And these guys just really went over and over and over and got to show just every detail of this the way they wanted. And we were a little envious because they're having 4 times the time, but at the same time, they had probably 10 times the oversight. The people that they had to, show this to and prove themselves to and interact with and just deal with. Whereas as our former boss used to say, we were very much a garage band.
Yeah.
They just, okay, here, you got 13 songs to get out by the end of the weekend. Come on, let's do it. So that was, a different feel that way. But again, credit to Beau the Mayo. He said, because he'd had some bad experiences in a couple other series he'd worked on where they didn't respect the previous iteration. He said, everybody that works on the show has to be a in-love fan of the original show. And, no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't care if you're just bringing coffee. Everybody has to love the original show. So that we really think that came through. And that was what we think of referred as like Beau's mandate.
Yeah.
That they should be.
If either of your accounts are to be any indication, like I don't think this is speaking out of school, but you guys, it looks from the outside like you guys have gotten to know each other and become friends, or you both have posted a bunch of pictures of like you guys having meals together and stuff. That must be very sweet.
Oh, it's great.
It profoundly. In fact, we touched base today. The fact that everyone there that we've had the chance to interact with have just embraced us, and we hope we've been embracing them right back, especially Beau, because what Eric says is true. He dedicated himself to good old X-Men the animated series, and I believe is the one responsible for X-Men '97, along with all the other talented folks there. But Beau.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask, and you talked about this previously, but
on X-Men?
Yes, on X-Men. That's my little addition right there. If there's ever an X-Men I don't know, 27. Um, I would say having an ever interconnected world is great in many ways. We saw a little bit, though, of ways in which it can be not so great. And there was a lot of, and again, please feel free to share as little or as much on this as you want, but there was a lot of, I'm going to say, it's my channel, I can say it, unjust negativity towards the revival before any animated frame had even been seen. There was a lot of call out about certain characters' so-called sexual orientations, or whether certain actors appropriately looked the part, or I don't know, just really negative, I think offensive reviews before anything really had been seen. And now to be on the other end of that after the season had wrapped and hear nothing, and everybody's just, whoever those people were just left in the dust, and everybody is now exclaiming their love and
Yeah.
Well, when the show premiered back in March, we were included in an interview, and I made some, that X-Men the animated series. Did we teach you people nothing about tolerance? And I sort of got tapped the official X-Men scold. Hey,
felt it very on
X-Men,
point.
X-Men the animated series was all about tolerance, bigotry, and inclusion, using allegories and without being able to say certain words back in 1992
In a kid's show.
in a kid's show on Saturday morning.
About homophobia or racism or whatever it was that or anti-Semitism, whatever
Bigotry, whatever it was.
whatever underlay this perfect setup from Jack Kirby and Stan Lee,
And
who had lived through the Holocaust, both of them. I mean, not in the camps, but
Sure.
whose lives had been informed by that as the major event of their lives.
Yeah.
To have this
And the
brought up into
60s
it.
race
Yeah,
riots.
that's all the way back to the 60s.
Yeah.
To have insinuations made before the show came out, in 2023 about, oh, it's could be too woke. There's just, I think,
What does that word even
about-
mean?
yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
That's my concern.
but I think,
What does that mean?
I think there's about 1% of the internet that just lives on stirring up negative controversy, no
Yes.
matter what it is. We had it with our books. I mean, there've been a couple thousand reviews of the art book that you saw. In the first week, there was one review that gave it 1 star, gave it like the lowest review it could, and was complaining there were no pictures in it or something. Obviously, he'd never seen the book,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it just was his job to get up every morning and disrespect,
Yeah.
half a dozen new things that were coming out to his website. So, and we had it with each of our books. There was like a couple negative reviews that had nothing to do with the books whatsoever. But over time, let me look now. The new show, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, the best reviewed show in the history of the Marvel universe, in the history of from 1960, from 1966, kind of static, non-animated animation of the 60s to now, through all the movies and through all the live action TV shows.
And the
This-
animated shows.
And yeah.
What if they got,
Yeah, that this is the best reviewed Marvel show ever, shows that in spite of these random naysayers, that they're doing it for the thrill of pretending people are listening to them. It's
and I have tried to be as careful as possible with our presence online in terms of encouraging positivity and responding to anyone's honest feelings about the show, because so many people, it means so much to them. And you and I sort of tease about, we mentioned Star Trek earlier, but Star Trek the original has a very special place in my heart.
when we were little,
When I
that's
was
the
little,
thing
that
that
was my
grabbed
show.
us.
Yeah, each of us in our own, and then when we met each other, it was like, oh, you think you know Star Trek? Yeah. We started sort of jabbing at each other, but the fact that I will go down with, that's where I'll plant my flag. Star Trek the original series matters to me, and I understand that X-Men the animated series, there are fans who feel that same way, and
Millions of them.
oh my goodness. And if anyone could find anything that helped them get through any portion of their life for a split second and I was involved in some way, that's as good as it gets. That's as good as it gets.
And of course, I
been a-
already
it's-
shared my story with you and continue to share that as a clip about how much that show helped me.
Thank you.
I love that story, by the way. I just want to quickly share that my mom was an OG Star Trek fan. It's what she watched when she was going through medical school. And then when they announced that they were bringing Star Trek back, this time as a new show, but still bringing it back, she was, I don't know, I was young. She was very, very excited to introduce me to Star Trek through the lens of the new show. So for me, my Star Trek is and forever will be The Next Generation, but we have that same kind of, but I love Star Trek. Star Trek is probably my second favorite fandom, and that is totally due to my mom kind of passing it on.
I'm reaching around here
Which
to
is
share
kind
with
of
you.
very, I hadn't even thought about it, but it's very similar to like X-Men 90, again, going back to X-Men 97 and X-Men 92 and how it's introducing new fans to the older show.
Okay. You mentioned we're all talking Star Trek. We're all talking X-Men.
Yeah,
Can you
we're all
find it? Can
geeking
you
out
find it in
here.
your book? The postage stamp. Here's the thing, and if we told you this last time, apologies. But if we didn't, we found out when Eric started doing interviews for the book. All right, soak this in. That is Apocalypse. Okay, Apocalypse.
Yes,
Our
yeah,
Apocalypse. Did we tell you? Okay,
that's amazing.
the voice of Apocalypse on our show,
It's the voice of the very first Klingon on Star
Yes.
Trek, first
Yes.
season.
John Colicos, and it's like we didn't know we were working on the show, and we
Really?
didn't know. No,
When I
we
looked
didn't-
that up and I thought that had to have been done on purpose.
I wish I knew. I would have flown to Canada myself to meet the guy
I'm sure it's absolutely random.
Yeah.
They were just desperately trying to get the right voices.
in
and
Canada.
If none of them had ever heard of Star Trek, that would have been cool with them. So yeah, it was just he had this once in a lifetime voice.
Oh my God.
It really was
It's there in when he plays a Klingon. It's there in a couple movies
Yeah.
we've seen him in, and it's certainly there in the Apocalypse reading.
Speaking of, that's the next voice that I'll be anxiously waiting to hear, whatever actor they get, because he sadly passed as well.
Yes.
And,
Oh yeah.
Yes, he did.
again, that voice for that, I mean, such booming and imposing, and just, I can't comment enough how amazingly well your show did with just casting the right actor for the right roles. I mean, they all sounded the part. And they have all since been, Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, James McAvoy. They've all been played by such amazingly talented people since then. But there's still something about that initial crew from your show that is like, for me at least, and I feel safe to say a lot of fans, the definitive cast. Rogue.
Yep. No, we're going to agree on that. And the backdrop you have with one of the first pieces of artwork promoting X-Men 97, I'm seeing those. I'm smelling those VHS tapes.
Yeah.
But those voices, those are the first voices I'd ever heard associated with the X-Men characters. And for fans, we know that's the case too. And boy, if you want to hear what Wolverine sounds like, you're going to hear Cal Dodd in your head, I think. And if you want to hear Lenore, if you want to hear Rogue, it's Lenore Zanuck. Beast, it's George Buza. And that's a tremendous, that just shows how tremendously well, you're right, they were cast. These very incredibly talented people.
I wasn't going to ask this once the show got picked up, but since you guys have made it clear that it's a different show, that they're just, I feel like it's back on the table. Was there any stories, any plot elements, any characters that you guys wanted or looking back wish you could have done in your show that didn't?
Okay,
That might still be spoilers. I don't
no,
know. But.
No, but here's the funny thing that he'll take the lead on if I ever shut up here. But
No.
So after the first 13 episodes, everyone was let go on the original series, and then you were tapped. Hey, great reviews, great ratings. Can you come back and do the next 13? Oh, okay, one more season, great. And you and your head writer, Mark.
Yeah, we thought it'd be.
Because it ends with
it ends with with Cyclops and Jean, proposing to Jean,
Right.
and she's saying yes. And so we thought, okay, well, let's open the second season. They're married.
There's a little
and,
bit of a stinger.
yeah, but that stinger was added later.
Oh,
Yeah.
Originally, when it was recorded, this little stinger about sinister,
well, yeah.
that wasn't there when we first animated that episode.
Yeah.
And so what happened was two things. One, she's getting to something that we might have wanted to do. But the reason that was added later was that like 6 weeks into showing the first season, so 6 episodes in early 1993, Fox had a focus group of a bunch of 9-year-olds and said, okay, do you like the show? Yes, well, said, who's your favorite character? And Morph won by a landslide. He was in the first 2 episodes. They maybe, who knows how many they showed, probably, certainly not the whole season. But so to them, he was a main character, and we set him up as to be really lovable so that when he was killed, it would really make everybody grieve harder. Well, that we made him too lovable. So we get a phone call from the network saying, can you please let Morph find some way to have him come back to life? When you killed him off screen, you could come up with something. So, which we were very disappointed because we brought him there specifically to be a heroic sacrifice. Well, so we're thinking, okay, what do we do? Oh, and we talked to Larry Houston. We figured who might be
Right.
clever enough to have done something to make it look like Morph was killed, but he has some sinister idea about ways to mess with him. And okay, well, it's Mr. Sinister. So we decided that as we were writing season 2, and Larry rushed back and put in a little hint of him at the end before episode.
And it was a different actor, right? It was a temp
Yes, it
actor
was.
the first time
It was.
aired,
I'm sure it was a
wasn't
temp. I'm sure it was a temp actor.
Temp
I just
voice,
threw this little hint of a face on and a little, and that was done again while we're doing season 2 as a way to foreshadow what we were doing, this new stuff we were doing in season 2, which we hadn't planned to do at all. So that was a little bit of an add-on. But what Julie was getting to, the one thing we changed that, again, episodes we might have wanted to do, Mark Edens and I thought, well, what we do for season 2? Oh, let's have them be married, and she's 7 months pregnant, has a big baby bump, and she's about to have a double mutant child. Okay, and we didn't even know the books very well. So yeah. I mean, whatever that would mean, we just said,
well, as an X-Men fan, to me, that means Rachel and Nathan.
Right, exactly.
Knew,
but that shows how little we knew. So we just wrote that up as an idea, and we sent that to Marvel and everybody. And they said, Marvel said, it's a really cool idea. We've kind of been thinking about that line. We're not ready to do it for the next year or 2
in the books.
Yeah. So can you guys hold off and not do this? And some of the people were also writing, some of our
Meugniot, I think.
Meugniot or Larry are saying, I don't know, our main viewers, 11-year-old boy, I bet sure they want to see their pregnant mother, running around kicking ass
in spandex.
So that was one thing that we had set up to do as a story, which we had to pull back from. But since we weren't crazed X-Men fans for 30 years, we didn't have a build-up agenda. By the time we'd done episode 76, and so many people had left the show, we were so ready for it to be done. And we had a couple other jobs waiting for us. The last thing in our minds was, what should we do on the next episode? That was clean slate.
But
So,
there is some beautiful symmetry that X-Men 97 opens.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. So 25 years later.
Finally honor. Yeah.
How crazy is that? My
It's
gosh.
not twins, but still and I mean, again, I don't want to harp on the new show that too much, although I absolutely love it. But this is an interview with you guys. But the show, I feel like, obviously, a large reason why they were able to do a pregnancy arc in the new show is that it's clearly not targeted at 11-year-old kids. It's targeted at either the fans who grew up with the original show, who are now around my age, or new adults who are coming in and then are going back and checking out the original show. But I feel like it allows them to take your characters and your world and do, you say, and I think we talked in our last interview about kind of like how you were going to handle death of Morph and the initial blowback to that and doing it off screen or whatever. And now we have that Genosha episode. It's like,
Okay, I don't want to talk spoilers here, but I do want to say about that episode. Okay,
Yeah.
episode 5. There's a moment in the beginning. Okay, I'm going to spoil a moment in the beginning at the mansion where Logan goes outside and there's Jean Grey sort of contemplating the universe out by a body of water, and he's
Yes.
there to be there for her. And dear God, she turns around and she comes in and she.
action in
Yeah,
all
we
of
did.
your episodes as well.
Yeah, no, we didn't. Yeah, without the budget, with
Yeah.
none of the budget
Yeah.
and none of the time. But
And a lot of
Yeah.
the Easter eggs, you must have saw that in the episode. I mean, it's fine to do spoilers because
It's
gonna
They
say
showed
it
the whole show,
here.
yeah.
Finish the first season of X-Men '97, and then come watch this interview. In that forward flash, or whatever you want to call it, of Bastion's future,
Yeah.
there are 2 notable mutants working on kind of assembly, whatever you want to call it, right? Who were, I mean, I noticed immediately because anyone who grew up on the original show noticed those characters.
hey, we are stunned by the number of Easter eggs
And
and
callbacks
callbacks.
and reference lines.
Oh
that-
my God!
Repeating of the line. That,
Yeah.
So it
The last line that Gambit uses, so remember it. Like that was his calling phrase, right? Your guys' show, like
It was. Yeah.
and it's funny. It's been such a success now. I can let a little bit of nervousness. Obviously we didn't know it was going to be successful. It was. It really looked that way on the page. It really felt that way in the rough versions, but you never know till it's out there if it's going to connect.
Mhm.
And then it did connect. And my worry when we were first reading the material, we said, look, this is really dense with wonderful stuff that fans of our show will love. So believe me, that's not going to be the problem. People aren't going to say they got it wrong. They're going
Correct. Yeah.
all the old fans are going to say they got it right. But we're as concerned about the new fans, that don't know our show or haven't read 50 years of the books.
Right.
Like all these people have.
60 years of the book.
Yeah, which we certainly haven't done. So is the show still going to be satisfying as a half-hour adventure for someone that doesn't really know these characters very well yet and is just curious, what is this world? Oh, okay. And then because so much of the happiness to the fans are the stuff that they already know. And what's it going to be? I mean, try to ask a friend. I'm curious. Is it confusing? Is it too much? Is it, super saturated? Is there just too much X-Men world in there? Or have they kept the stories nice and clean and satisfying so that you don't have to have seen the show before? And that was my biggest question. And obviously the numbers are that new people are loving it too.
And the fact that they aired it once a week for the 10 episodes, I thought
yeah,
that was nice. It really gave each episode the chance to sort of breathe and sit with the audience.
Yes.
I mean, look, anyone can binge it. That's perfectly fine. I like to binge too, but I guarantee the once a week episodes hit people different than sitting down and binging all 10.
I was debating this with a friend of mine who's a Netflix fan, and we were talking about that very fact. And yeah, binge it. I enjoy a good binge, but binging is just different when you watch and there's a cliffhanger and you have to. There's time to digest, to be like,
Yes.
wait, what did I just watch? And whereas when you watch everything in one go, it's kind of like, well, it's over before you have a chance to really contemplate anything. It's like,
Right.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, we love the fact that somebody in our day, if they wanted to watch 13 episodes, that's 3 months of their life.
right.
If
Yes.
their parents let them.
If their parents and then be able to talk to their friends about it, they'd
Yeah.
be able to think about it. If they have a VCR, they'd be able to record it and watch it again.
Go
and
to
think it
bed.
over.
That was
Two
me.
episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really satisfying for us, and I'm sure they're going to do it in season 2 and 3 as well. They'll stretch it out as well.
We don't know,
It would
but
make sense. I mean,
it
I
would
can't
make
imagine
sense,
Would
but-
be what we assume. Yeah.
but we don't know.
Um,
But we assume.
I know that we're probably running out of time, but I just wanted to quickly share that, and I was talking with another friend about this too, that as I've shared with you guys, I have rewatched your show constantly, especially now that it's on Disney Plus. Have Yourself a More Like Little Christmas has been my go-to once a season every year since I don't know that episode was on.
Wow.
But watching X-Men 97, and I was having a difficult time trying to think of what it is, but I think I solved it. Hearing that theme song, even though I know that theme song by heart, I could literally hum that theme song to you right now. But hearing that theme song, regardless of how my week had been or what adult responsibilities I had to do or whatever, I'd sit down and I'd hear that theme song, and suddenly I'm 10 years old in my parents' living room again. And then the episode starts and it's off to the races. And I think what it is A, it's been beautifully remastered so that it sounds as new as that first time I heard it. But also there's that anticipation factor, right? Like, I love the episodes, but I know each and every single episode inside and out by heart by this point. But when you sit down in front, it's like you don't know what you're going to get. And then that theme song comes on and it's just the Easter eggs and the stories and the relationships. And it's literally like, yeah, it's like the first time watching X-Men 92 again. And it's from this fan and all the fans, amazing. And wouldn't be here without you guys. So
Oh, and look at us getting to share this right now.
Yeah,
This is huge. Thank you.
How great this is that we're going to probably spend the next 3 or 4 years
We hope.
being able to happily talk about look what these crazy young people have done. They've done a great job. Look what, and they've taken this forward, and just how thankful we are. I mean, if this show had been terrible, we obviously would have found some way to try to be supportive, but it would have been really difficult. And we would still had our old show. It wouldn't have besmirched that in any way. The legacy is still there. So there was no worry on our side that this, but they did such a good job all the way from the executives to the artists to the writers. Everybody, handled this so well that it's just like a gift to us.
It is.
It's like, like here's a prize in your retirement. Enjoy yourselves.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will. Thank you.
Well, on that beautiful note, you guys are amazing. And thank you so much. And hopefully, we'll be able to do another one in another 3 years and discuss season 4 of X-Men 97.
Absolutely.
Okay. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.